right, I call my final meeting of the Finance and Operations Committee to order. It is Wednesday, December 13th, 6:32 p.m. Present from the committee are myself and Mr. Kaufman, also present Mr. Farrington and Mr. Donovan. Mr. Smith, and if I could remember the last name, I would say it.
Oh, Mrs. Bastoni, yeah.
And the CTE co-director, Ms. Bastoni. What order do you want to do things in here, Ms. Donovan?
Well, I would suggest we could follow the agenda except item 2. I would like to move to the end, since we'd like to have a small non-public
Well, why don't we
on that.
why don't we also do the CTE? I assume.
You want to do that first?
No, well, either way. I mean, Sean's going to be. I feel like Sean's going to take a little while to get through. So why don't we do the CTE equipment depreciation schedule, which is, I assume.
No, that's not why she's here. She's here for a different reason. So why don't we start with?
Sounds like I'm not going to get my equipment depreciation schedule. That's what it sounded
Sounds like you will not be getting.
No respect already. You know, I'm a lame duck. That's
I
it.
have some info on it if you wanted me to, but.
No, all right. So is she? All right. So now I don't know what item.
She's here to talk about one of the contract items.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's do what you said.
Which we'll do second. So we'll just do this first.
All right. Deferred maintenance and
enjoy
capital
this meeting
improvements
for a while.
FY19.
All right, Mr. Smith. would you-
Okay. Included a cover memo, actually a 3-page memo. That goes, the first page and a half is what we accomplished this past fiscal year. Basically, we did everything we planned to do except for the things we still have left in this fiscal year. The main thing we did was paving at Ledge Street.
I like that. We did
You did
everything
everything
except
you planned to,
that.
except
what we have left. Can't argue with that.
I wish I could lay that on some of my sponsors.
That was good. That was good. But it didn't go unnoticed. Just want you to know.
Let's slip it in there. Yeah. But if you go to the spreadsheet, I guess that's the main focus of everything. So I included FY18 on there because that's the current year, and you can see actually you can see the impact of getting $200,000 in our budget as opposed to $600,000. A lot of stuff gets deferred. So when I say that there are some things that we plan to do but we haven't done yet, those you see under FY18.
Excuse me for 1 second. So this is requesting 600,000 and the budget only gives you 200,000, and so this is the reason why there's deferred.
Right.
Okay, I just
Because even the deferred gets deferred.
Gotcha.
So
And the board doesn't have control over that line item. That's the mayor decides what the deferred maintenance will be.
Okay, thank you.
Hence the reason we don't, when we talk to Mr. Smith and say, what can you do?
We don't know yet.
We always think optimistically, it should be 600,000.
So how would that 600 be determined? Is that a percentage of something, or that's
No, it's just
traditional minimum that we used to get?
part of pulling the budget. The mayor gets all the budgets from all the various departments, pulls it all together and says, okay, how much can I afford to put toward deferred maintenance?
But where the 600 came from was actually Mark Conrad did an analysis looking at the value of the entire plant, and then looking at suggestions on how much money you should be investing in your infrastructure every year. And for us, it came to around $600,000.
Well, I remember Brian McCarthy once saying something along the lines of, you might remember it better than I, that it was some 5 or 6 or 7% of the whole thing. And when he looked at the money and he looked at the bonding and the costs for the bonding, and he calculated that amount of dollar value plus what we were perhaps doing with the deferred maintenance, it was right around whatever that number would be. So what we're using for deferred maintenance, what we would like to have saved for deferred maintenance, a lot of that goes to the bonding.
Yes,
I mean,
it ends up being bonded instead of deferred
Right.
maintenance. And Brian's very aware of that, and he is one of the few aldermen that actually brings it up. But it's not that he's able to add to the budget at all, but he's aware of it and brings it up, so as a discussion point.
So that's strictly a number given by the mayor and the alderman?
The mayor pretty much, yeah, I mean,
He
They-
sets it, but the aldermen never change it.
no, they've
Gotcha.
never. Yeah.
Thank
So is that the first step, being aware that you're falling behind? And anticipating the fact you'll be criticized when you have to do,
When you ask for a bond.
when you have to do renovations because
Well, as you can see.
Because Sean didn't do his job.
That's
and
right.
Get the maintenance done.
But Sean's
back to you,
job
Sean.
and my job here is to let everyone know, this is a
Yep.
minimum we
Right.
need, and if you're gonna give us 1/3 of it, it's only gonna get worse.
Sean, I think you need to work something out with Mr. Donovan and those color copiers that he's got. Maybe you can get some play money to throw into the pool.
I'm getting an extra
Going on that.
$5,000, and I'm about to squeeze out of those copiers.
No, I meant
So,
printing currency is what I was talking about.
I'm not gonna break my streak here, we're gonna finish at 8:30.
I'll zip ahead here. So FY18, we actually currently have $241,000. Deferred maintenance money carries over from year to year, so we don't use the prior year carries into this year. So the focus and what I'm requesting you to do are do the projects I'm recommending for FY19, because we have to submit all this to the Capital Improvement Committee. So the chiller units in the two high schools are around, they're expected to last 25 years. They're slightly past that time now. So we're looking to do a life extension of those at 50,000. And actually that'll come up later when we discuss contracts. We are looking to create security vestibules at Fairgrounds Elementary, Charlotte and Bicentennial, possibly Ledge as well. We're asking for 50,000 there. The Amherst Street, the playground in front, if you take a look at the asphalt, it's in pretty sad shape. It's cracked and alligatored and very uneven. Installing a camera system at Stellos, that would be a cost actually shared with Park and Rec. Replace emergency generators at Dr. Chris and Bicentennial. The more expensive of the two is at Dr. Chris because that's there's underground oil storage tank there, and we have to budget a little bit more in case something leaked out, and then we have to deal with it.
Does that
hazard.
stay fuel or does that go to gas?
We would switch it over to gas. Actually, Bicentennial was also oil, but we're going to convert that to gas as well, but that's an above-ground storage tank. We want to continue the replacement of unit ventilators at Main Dunstable. That's the program we started 2 summers ago. And then the New Searles Elementary, this is, by the way, this is kind of in order of priority. For a long time, the front wing in that school heats up in the summertime, late spring, early fall. So this would address those concerns. So that's the deferred maintenance piece. You can see how I've moved things out. I've deferred things even under the deferred. So we're going out to 2024 at this point. And the total deferred maintenance backlog is a touch over $8 million. So now the capital, these are the big ticket items now.
Could I just ask one question? The unit ventilators at Main Dunstable, there was some, when we did it, if you say 2 years ago, there was some talk about Birch Hill because they're pretty comparable in age and all that, and that project seems to be getting pushed out further. Does Main Dunstable have more that they have an issue with than
Yes.
than Birch Hill?
Yes. So if you recall, we did 10 unit ventilators in each school.
Yes.
The next school I'm recommending that we address for renovation is Elm Street. You can see, actually, we received a briefing from Harriman and Harvey a couple months ago on that. And that the project cost for that is $60 million at this point.
I was gonna say, you're about 1/120th short of what you need there.
Well, I'm asking, next fiscal year, I'm asking just for seed money for the architect and construction manager to start the whole process. So that probably gets you through, say, the 35% design phase of the project. That's where the $500,000 comes in. But then, so you design 1 year, then start construction the next year.
So is the operative word renovation?
That is what I'm suggesting at this point, but the city can obviously decide we want to rebuild.
Okay.
This gets the ball rolling, so to
Okay,
speak.
so if I recall correctly, the conversation we had, the renovation cost is almost really close to
Ballpark of it.
ballpark to build new.
Yes.
So, I think we have to keep that in perspective, so, I'm
Part of hiring the architect is to help you go through that process. You know, if you decide you want to look for a new site, or if you wanna build a new school on the same site, they'll help you through the whole process. They'll work with a construction manager to give you cost estimates for every nuance associated with it.
Okay, so but it is the same, this is the same entryway to either road as you
Now,
want.
back in 2000, I think it was, or actually before that, we were talking about renovating the high school. Now it's a South High School, but it was the high school back
Right.
then. And originally the plans were to build one huge high school that would rival Brockton in Massachusetts. So it's gonna be a 4,000 student, it's gonna be a big campus with a central steam plant, all sorts of stuff. But as that went through the public process, they said, I want my kid going to Brockton, or, you know, something like that. So then they went to two different campuses. So that, it can change dramatically between the entry point and what ends up.
Just for the public's benefit, if I recall correctly, it was about $240 per square foot renovation or construction. So it's about the same money, just putting it out there for people's reference.
So first of all, I'm glad we don't broadcast to Brockton. Second of all, so the challenge is you need land in order to do it. So we're gonna build it next door. And unfortunately, we don't have a recently bankrupt college campus that we could purchase, so we're stuck with trying to find land. Mr. Farrington,
I was wondering how you're gonna work that in.
I'm gonna get quite a few in tonight, by the way, because I only
Good.
got so many hours left.
I'm looking forward to it. I would suggest that before you go too far down that road, you need to get your new board members in and up to speed on what the situation is down there, because this is going to become, particularly if the conversation comes around to leaving that school and building a new one, it's going to take on a lot of interest in the community. And so they should be aware of what they bought into.
Yeah, if we haven't already, by the way, we should make sure that the new members have copies of the Elm Street and the Mount Pleasant reviews that were done by Harriman.
We should sit down with them, give them a briefing.
Yeah, we probably should, because I just laying it out, it's a bit complicated to read.
You actually probably should sit the whole board down, because they may not have been paying too close an attention.
Because it came here, yeah.
So that's the first school. Then you'll see as you go through the page 3 and 4 that we still have Maine Dunstable and Birch Hill. Mount Pleasant I actually kicked to the end of the other two schools because we paid a lot of attention to them the last few years, and I think we've addressed the main issues there, that being air conditioning. So the other thing I'm requesting for next fiscal year is for our energy performance contracts, $2.5 million for the next 2 years. We address the North High School first and then the South High School. So that's where you get your totals. Responding to Farrington, part of what is driving us with our schedule is the Capital Improvement Committee meets next month. So we have to put something in as a placeholder just to get that going.
Oh, I understand, I just, don't forget them, because this is gonna be a big, big issue for them.
Right.
Howard, you can remind them.
So the other,
You need
if I
a-
just make one, from my edification, that $2.5 million, so that's, assuming we do bring on an energy consultant, they're going to recommend projects, and that's the money we would use to pay for it, and then we receive the benefit and reduce costs over time, is that?
Correct.
That's
Your
the
your
intent.
utility costs will go down. That doesn't necessarily take into account rebates and that sort of thing that might factor in.
Yeah, it's more of a placeholder until we really get started.
So just when we do the return on investment, right, we're gonna have to
Yeah.
assume we're paying interest on all that money in order to borrow it to do it, so. Okay, you need a motion?
Yes, to accept the deferred maintenance and capital improvement
Just-
program as
and
presented.
if this is next month, don't you need the full board to vote on it? So
We do.
is the plan to have them do that on the 8th?
What about the 19th?
The 19th, I thought if we've got
Well, so
something.
you just have to make sure you put it on the agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if we have things that need to be approved, we can do it the 19th with that special meeting.
Yeah, let's do that.
You mean next week for the?
Yes,
yeah.
next Tuesday.
Yes. And one of the, I just want to mention one other thing about this, the state used to have a building building aid fund, which
Used to
they
have, you
used
said.
to have, yes. They're still paying off what they promised, but they now have a new fund that is a miniature version of that. And they just began they've had 2 meetings, and they've started giving out funds related to it. Yes.
That's just the
The
title.
Public School Infrastructure Fund. And it has $19 million in it, okay?
Hence
So-
the name miniature?
Yes, because you're not gonna get a lot of 20% of 60 million's gonna eat up that 19 million pretty quick. But they are, what they've seemed to have accepted so far, they haven't spent much of that 19, but a lot of them are security type
Yep.
projects. So the security type projects that are listed here on Sean's sheet are being sent up, they're up there now, so they'll be put in the key, so to speak, and they'll be working on those, and based on everything we've seen so far, almost every security project has been approved. So we're hoping that some of these security projects will get approved, and then that'll free up more money for some of the other things. So we'll see how it goes. They have another meeting mid-December.
There's just so many things I could comment on tonight. That makes sense.
Christmas
so
came
move
early
to-
for you.
move to
So many
approve-
comments, so little time.
Move to approve the FY19 capital improvements plan as presented by Mr.
Second.
Smith. Seconded by Mr. Kaufman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. We're gonna defer the ESCO discussion to the end, correct?
Yes.
All right, contracts.
Okay, so the first sort of contract item you have, is why Ms. Bastoni is here. We have there's a letter or a memo in your package from her, and it's talking about signage for the Nashua Technology and CTE program. So, Amanda, would you please speak to that?
Sure, Sean is gonna pass around. On one side is how we envision the sign looking, and north and south are in agreement. As I stated in the memo, we want the signs to look the exact same at both centers, and on the back side of this sheet, you'll see an N which has blue and purple, and that, when you flip it over, will be how we will color the N. So the capital N, T, and C will be this blue and purple, so that it represents both the north and the south campuses, but coming together as one Nashua Technology Center. We don't imagine this budget will exceed $3,000. I have Google Maps if you're interested in seeing where the signs would be placed. So I sort of circled where we'd place it at Nashua North and where we'd place it at South campuses. Come back. I only have those two, sorry guys.
'Cause
I was
it's
trying
color.
to save on, yeah, I
She's
was
saving on
actually.
20 cents right there.
Yep.
So I think this is something I know this is something really exciting, but I can answer, but I can answer any questions you have. Does anyone have
Yeah,
questions?
so
Yeah.
I'm curious, so
Sure,
I thought
please.
we were a regional technology center. So I would think, in my mind, I thought that's really, we're regional,
Mhm.
and there's no recognition that we're a regional technology center.
We threw that around. If we could put the regional, I think it's region, we discussed it, region 18 or
Something like that.
16. So we could add that. That's not an issue. We were trying to keep the cost down by having less information on the sign, but we could add that. That's not a big deal.
Well, I don't know, to me, it gives added recognition to, we're not just local high school technology center, we serve a region, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of kids from a lot of schools
You're
that
totally
really
right.
use our program.
Yep.
So,
And that's one of the
I
reasons.
think there's recognition attached to the word region.
Sure, we're really open to that. And one of the reasons we want this sign is because we have the sending students, and oftentimes they won't know, they'll say, oh, here's the high school, is this where the technical center is? I'm unsure. So it's really nice to have that sign so the sending students, their parents, community members know what's happening. And one thing I did note is that I've also made some calls to the DOT, thanks to Sean, also to our local Nashua's Park and Recs, and we're working on signs that would go on the street as well. So this is just the first step in getting signage for the Nashua Technology Center.
So that's, you were talking about something about the roundabout, is that where you're?
Exactly, so so I've called the DOT and we do qualify, both schools would qualify for, they call them the tourist signs, they're kind of those.
The blue ones?
Yeah, they're blue and white, and those do have a cost associated with them, an initial cost, and then it's only $10 a year to maintain them. But we have to apply for that, so I'm still researching it. But we could also potentially have one on the roundabout, kind of investigating that work. But the dream would be to have one on each campus as well as signage on the road.
So I guess I'm just thinking, we don't have any, do we have signage that says Nashua High School South and Nashua High School North?
Just as you enter the campus, it's the ones in,
Because I think we talked about it on
Yeah.
that roundabout. I think the mayor, one of the mayors suggested it at some point and then never happened. It's fair.
I think sometimes when that is discussed, people with the violence that occasionally takes place at schools, that they don't like to point out where your schools are. Just an argument that's thrown out there.
Right, no, because.
I'm just the messenger here, but I do have another.
Terrorists are pretty stupid. They don't know how to like look on a map.
Or worse, they know where their school is, where they're gonna trash, so.
Guy in New York was pretty stupid.
There you go.
But I have another signage question.
Sure.
Have you given any consideration to putting more prominent signs within the building? So that when students are walking down the corridors, they're constantly reminded there's a cosmetology, there's robotics, there's, culinary arts, something that would actually be right out there and.
Yes, we have given thought to that, and we want to market our programs, and it's something that we're really working towards. I think this is the first step, but then we have to address, colors, and so it's part of the conversation.
Okay,
I think
good.
getting the sign is like that first step, and then we move from there. We are bringing, there's TVs at South that display the CTE courses and the Technology Center courses, and we're bringing those to North. So tons of steps towards that. Yeah, marketing is on the table.
Excellent.
So,
Thank you.
one
Yeah.
other question I have,
Sure.
just looking at the signs in front of our school buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Will these signs, and I honestly don't know if the existing signs are lit.
We aren't, here's how I'm gonna answer that. We're not doing the granite signs, so the nice stone granite signs that are kind of out front when you first drive in. We are putting our signs a little closer to the school, and they're a metal sign. I don't know if they're lit currently. Do you know?
only by lampposts that happen to be nearby.
Okay.
So they're not gonna be where the current signs are for the building.
So as you go into the South High School main entrance, on the
Yeah.
left you have a sign that was donated, I believe, by one of the classes. And it says Home of the Panthers. Then this sign would probably
That's
go
the sign right there.
either
Current
next
sign.
to it or on the other side of the sidewalk.
Yeah, so it'll sort of say home of the Panthers, and the Nashua Technical.
So you'd have one sign on either side of the walkway, is that what you're thinking?
I think just to balance the sidewalk, yeah.
Or, I think they were thinking either way, but maybe right next to each other, and then this one has a sign here, and we'd kind of put them right next to each other. So it would say home of, Nashua High School South, Nashua
So-
North, and then home of the Technology Center.
Once you get further along and the signs are designed, do you think you could show us a mock-up before you actually,
I'm actually
Kind of look-
reaching out to a local vendor for that, to get mock-ups.
okay,
Actually, I asked them for their suggestions on color, background color,
okay,
particularly to make the purple and the blue stand out.
yeah.
And the purple and the blue is really.
White?
With white outline, yeah.
If they can, if they can't do this, then we'll go simple. We want to have something there, so that people can see it.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just would, before we put anything in the ground, I think we should see a mock-up and agree that it's what we want. Obviously it might not be to size, but.
Yeah, we're getting a little late in the season to be drilling down to put fence posts.
Exactly, so if it goes in the
signposts in.
spring, is fine.
Yeah.
But I'm so pleased to see you moving on this so quickly, because it was something we talked about early on with you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, of course, thanks. And so I guess one of the recommendations Sean had is that if we want to install them, we should do it soon before the ground freezes, but I guess we're saying we would have the mock-up and bring it back. That's the goal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
what
we'll
I
get it,
would
we'll
ask.
pass it back and forth, and
Okay,
hopefully they'll give us some choices.
okay.
Then we'll make a
Especially if you're gonna
recommendation.
add the word regional, then all of a sudden, kind of threw you back a little bit.
Right,
In terms of size or shape or whatever.
right,
If we get another week of this weather, it's gonna be frozen anyway.
And, yeah.
right, right.
I was looking at about a 24 high by 48 wide. It's kind of like tapers stretched out.
Yeah, no, I understand that proportion.
Is it gonna go in this area here?
This is south,
Yep.
right? No, so up
Up
closer
further?
to the building, yep,
Okay, thank you.
That's where the drop-off loop is.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask, should I move forward with exploring the signage on the road? Is that something I can move forward with?
Yeah, you don't really
I don't
need
have to
our
ask, okay.
permission to do that.
Sorry.
I personally would leave it all in your hands as to what the sign
Great.
looks like. I will not be here. Mr. Kaufman will be, so I think you should probably defer to Mr. Kaufman's view.
For what it's
Yes.
worth, I think
Come
as
back.
much self-promotion as we can do for the schools district, it's a good thing. I think CTE is the best-kept secret that we have, and I think it really should be promoted as well as we can.
Terrific, me too.
So-
So I agree.
So, but I would even
wholeheartedly.
say to you, having the sign at the entrance at the loop drop-off is great. But I would even argue, let's get one out on the street
Yeah.
as
yeah.
well. And that
That's
could
the
be
goal.
Well, that's
phase,
what they're trying
Yeah.
to do.
that's phase
And
two.
we get to approve the ones that are
On
on
a
the school.
property.
We
Yeah.
have to get other approvals.
Yeah.
Oh, so what Mr. Farrington was showing us, though, that picture from the street, that sign is, what, on city property? That's not part of the property of the school district? The entrance where that sign is?
I don't know.
Which school are we at, which campus?
So-
George, was that south?
Oh,
That's
it's
our
south,
property. It's on our property.
Yeah, that's,
That's considered
that's
out.
where you
big
make the
stone
left turn to
sign.
go around to the back parking lot.
Yes, so
Yeah.
what I understand is you're talking of now the one that's closest to the building itself, where the loop is, as Mr. Donovan said, right where the walkway is into the building.
Exactly.
That's
That's
where
where,
we-
yep.
And I'm asking about one that's back onto the street on our property.
That's what the
Yeah.
conversations you're having with the state now.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess if it's our property, that's where I'm confused.
But she
You have
doesn't
to
want it
get
to be on our property, she wants it out somewhere more visible. Say
We
along
can
West
get one
Hollow
step
Street
further,
or
'cause
someplace.
Yeah,
by
so
the
we
time
don't
you
want,
see
like-
that Nashua High
It's too
School
late to
South,
turn?
you wouldn't see it unless you were going to Nashua South.
Okay.
I think the goal for me with the signage was to start on our campus, because I know we could just approve that, we could get it done, we could move forward, and then I wanna continue the research to get the signs not only on the street, but also when you turn off the highway. So I would like, tons of signage. I'm just trying to start with accomplish the first phase, which we could just agree on, and then.
From the inside out.
Exactly, there you go. Yeah, from the inside out. And I don't know how to do that, but now we're learning.
So, there's probably no sense in us voting on this, other than to say that the view of the committee is you
Keep
should go
going.
off, get a little bit more refined, and then bring it back so we know what it
Okay.
is gonna be
Okay,
next month. One other comment I have, so I type in Nashua Technology Center, Nashua, New Hampshire, in Google, and it does not show up. So
Okay.
we should, there are
we
ways.
should market it better.
There are ways to,
A lot
there are ways to submit landmarks to Google that
Terrific.
they'll always get in there, but usually
Yep.
they will try to pick them up.
Yep. Well, one of the things, when I called the DOT, we had to qualify to get those tourist signs. So we had to do some research on if we were too close to a main road, then they wouldn't allow us to have those signs, but we're not. So there's a little maneuvering that I've been doing, or learning, I guess, the learning curve. So I would be happy to learn about Google.
What's the rationale as to why if it's too close to a main road, you can't have a sign directing people to your place?
Because I guess they're saying these are like for off the beaten path, or for tourism, and I don't know, but that is the rationale. You can see that I brought the form.
Well, as long as we qualify.
We do.
The
We
same
qualify.
rationale for charging you $10 an hour.
I was gonna ask,
I'm
Yeah.
like,
does
what
the
do they
guy
do,
come down
clean
and
it
check
once
the
a year?
bolts on the back of the sign?
It's $400 for the initial sign, and then $10 a year to keep it there.
It would seem like the
Well, that's because we're
administrative
tax-free,
fees for
where we don't pay taxes, so they have to extract the fee from the
So
sign.
Do
charge,
we-
so charge $500 for the sign and forget about
And
the
forget about the
annual.
annual $10.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't have control over that.
No, I know.
So now you're gonna have to write a check to the state every
For
year
$10.
for 10 bucks.
Well,
Probably
maybe
costs
we'll
you
have
$100.
No, but maybe we'll have more than one sign.
No, I'm just kidding, it costs you $10, it'll cost them $100 to process a $10 check.
There goes the
Yeah.
budget.
All right,
Okay.
so we're not gonna vote on that.
So we'll bring it
Thank
back.
you so much.
Great, we'll
You
bring
bring
it
back
back
now.
and then,
Do you want these?
is there any cost, Sean, associated with creating the mock-up? Do we need any?
Oh, because it'll be on a piece of paper.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
That'll be done by the
You wanna
sign.
hold on to that?
Correct.
No, you can keep that one if you want.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks. Can I?
Yep.
Now, the lettering won't be on a big hat like it is here. It's gonna be-
You're having a lot of fun today. No, but it will. And we're not even sure we can get that blue and purple, actually, but that's the
Sure you
goal.
can.
That's the
Of course
goal.
you
How much you wanna pay, you can
can.
We actually borrowed that from the athletic program. That's a
Yeah.
hat that Lisa got put together.
We want to stay in budget.
Well, that's no, but that's also branding, so I like the idea that it's consistent with something that we're using.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you,
So
everyone.
to raise money maybe for these signs, maybe kids,
Okay.
students, parents.
We're moving on, Howard.
That's fine, but I'm just saying.
It was
it'd be a fun thing
wonderful to see all of you
Next
again.
CTE program underneath the big N.
There you go.
Right.
Good night, thank you.
Good night.
And then you
All
can do
right.
the jackets.
The next thing is the chillers. Mr. Smith wrote a memo, how he would like to do a midlife overhaul.
Yes.
So would I.
Now, you're talking about the chillers? You're a little late for the midlife overall.
We never know for sure.
The end of life.
It's called hair color, you know.
The autumn of life. So, yes, we have chillers that were brand new when the schools were brand new, the two high schools, so they date to 2012, I'm sorry, 2002, 2004. That particular type of chiller is expected to last 25 years. So we're right around midlife for the chillers. What needs to take place is that all of them have insulation around them. They've physically dismantled the chillers. They have to replace the gasketing. They check out, they generally replace the bearings, sensors, basically tear it down all the way and then build it back up together again. There's a lot of sensors. I found it interesting on how chillers work. I just Googled it myself today just in case you had any questions on it.
Is
But,
that something they have to do during the summer?
No, they actually do it now
Oh, okay.
in the wintertime, because in summertime
They
you use
need
it.
them to air conditioning.
Kind of the opposite of boilers. So our estimate was $50,000. Now, in addition to that, we have a service contract year to year with Train to just do an annual maintenance program. And we budget, in our operating budget, $11,000 to do that for the two high schools. So this proposal that they gave us literally just came in today, said for $59,000 and change, they would do the overhaul. The overhaul 1 year for the next 4 years, and in addition to the annual maintenance for 59. So my guesstimate originally was $61,000 per year to do this. They're coming in at 59, so.
Okay. So the rebuilding will be part of the maintenance?
Yes.
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 Okay.
And if we pay it in 15 days, you get a 3% discount, which is
You got
about-
the cash, right?
Sure. 1,700. I'm paying my property tax bill tomorrow, so they can do
There we
it.
go.
So do you need a,
So-
You said
do you need a
4.
motion in the not to exceed 50,000, or do you need, is the 59,000 including the 11,000 we normally pay?
Correct,
in
Yes.
maintenance?
Yes. So in the deferred maintenance, you can see the current fiscal year, I had budgeted $50,000,
Okay.
FY18.
Okay.
And I did it 19, 20, and 21. So your motion would be to accept the contract provided by Train in the amount of $59,000 per year. is the exact
So there are
number
there's 2 per building?
Correct.
So would you do one school and then the second school, or would you do one, number 2, 2?
Probably do the two north first.
That's the
because
older
those are
building.
2 years older. I'm not seeing Dan on this, cost
It's
proposal.
on the back.
Very back.
Keep going. One more.
So his initial is a cumulative amount here.
What page are you on, please?
I'm looking at page 17.
On yours, Howard, I think it's in the very back page.
10 of 17?
Yeah, that's the costing.
This is skipping a page.
Yeah.
So forget that
I
one.
think you only printed the you printed the odd number pages.
I do have the original here.
Yeah. If you like odd numbers, you got 'em.
So, the annual amount, exact amount is $59,875, which will pay for the midlife overhaul plus the annual maintenance for all 4 chillers
So
each year.
So we would need to put $60,000, just rounding it up, we would need to have $60,000, or you would have that in the deferred maintenance, you'd be pulling this from the deferred maintenance account for the next,
I can adjust the deferred maintenance amount that we're gonna request, or we just
to
take.
increase the 60?
Or I can just take the 50 here, and I already have the 11, I have 9,
So you have the first year, is what you're saying?
I have the maintenance,
There's a
For-
maintenance piece of it. It's really gonna have to be charged to 2 different
Yes.
places.
yes.
Okay,
So 50,000 will go to the deferred maintenance, he has 200,000 in there now, and then the
11
11 or the 9 will go against where he's budgeted the
for
11.
maintenance, okay.
So it actually saves us money. doing
Plus
it
the
this way,
discount.
Yes.
which
Will
was-
cover the maintenance of your sign.
Sign comes from somewhere else, Sean's not paying for the sign, right?
Probably not. So the 3% discount is
$1,700.
$17.96.25.
And we're sure that, okay.
I think you just, once you sign the agreement, you pay within 15 days.
So is this saying you've gotta pay, this says a one-time 3% discount is offered for full payment of 1 year.
Yes, yes. That's how I read that it's a
Yeah,
1 year.
yeah,
You don't
yeah.
have to pay all 4 years, which it wouldn't be worth it. But for 1 year, it'd be worth it.
It doesn't look like that's available to you every year, it's just the first year.
It's kind of, that's one thing we're gonna have to ask them.
Yeah. All right, move to approve the chiller refurbishment contract with Train in an amount of $59,875 per year for 4 years.
Second.
And I know I'm fudging it a bit because it includes the maintenance, but everybody can read the contract, so. Seconded by Mr. Kaufman. Further discussion, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Next, Mr. Donovan.
Okay, the next we have a,
Oh, thank you.
we have a Smart Start contract for the Dr. Crisp Elementary School, and yes, my email said Amherst, and it's supposed to be Dr. Crisp. Someone mentioned that to me. So we've done a number of these before. We have, basically, the way these work is the contractor is hired by Eversource, they come in, they do it, and then we get a charge each month. They spread it out over the period that they think we'll be able to save it, so it shouldn't cost us any more money, because we should be saving that
amount.
much. And then we, at the end of this is done over either 63 or 48 months, it depends how aggressive we wanna be. Now, the other thing, you can pay it off sooner. We've done this at other schools. We have paid some of those off sooner. We still do have some outstanding ones. We did a bunch of them about 3 years ago. Mr. Smith signed them without bringing them to the committee, so
You have to remind
he
them
learned his lesson not to do that again. So this, and Sean, if you want to sort of give him a little background of how this came about, this actual one.
Well, it's a program that PSNH, now Eversource, has been running for quite a number of years. We've taken advantage of it quite often. All our parking lot lights and wall packs on the sides of buildings are all LED. We've changed out the lights at Pennachuck Middle School and New Searles Elementary, so the internal lights are all LED. Portions of Elm Street are LED, particularly in the mechanical arts, part of the CTE program. Those are going to LED. So it's worked very well. We always look at the term. I generally recommend we go with the more aggressive one and pay it off quicker. Again, the money comes out of the savings that we get every month.
Are the savings actually realized?
Yes, yes.
Even the more aggressive ones? I mean, do we?
Yeah.
Because in reality, the more aggressive, you could end up paying a little bit more because you didn't quite get to that.
It's not like the
savings
building's
level.
going away.
No.
I mean, we're in this for the long haul.
So they've never
You're
come
not
back to
paying-
us and asked for
You're
more.
not paying more, you're just having to use real dollars
Cash,
as
right.
opposed to savings.
But the good news then, if you use that approach, then once you've paid it off, then you've got all the savings of yours.
You still have money in the energy reserve account?
Yes. A
So
little
you
over
could-
100.
So you could always use that if you didn't make it, right?
Yeah. I could.
All right, so what do you need from us? Motion to approve lighting upgrades at Dr. Crisp and
Just
Dr.
Dr.
Crisp.
just Dr. Crisp.
Was that a motion?
Not yet.
Okay.
Move to approve the lighting upgrades at Dr. Crisp. How am I
How are you
reading
gonna
this?
try and quantify it now?
Yeah, can I just say, you okay with me just saying, move to approve the lighting upgrades and associated costs of those upgrades at Dr. Crisp? You all right with that, Mr. Kaufman?
Second.
Mr. Kaufman, further discussion? I know you're not that comfortable with it, but let's go with it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
And just incidentally, we've asked the company to take a look at a couple other schools, Maine Dunstable and Birch Hill, see what the program would look like at those locations.
So these are the low-hanging fruit,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Everybody, oh yeah, let's do the lighting.
If we hire an ESCO company at the high schools, it's gonna be
They
the
would do it
first thing they
anyway.
do.
So let me ask you this question, let's say, and it's total and complete speculation, let's say for some reason this building gets modified use for another purpose. As part of any work that would occur here, would lighting upgrade be part of that construction? That was something you would do?
This building here?
Yeah. For example, if Brentwood moved in here, which has always been talked about as an option.
Right. It might, because it is now a school. They won't use this, I don't believe they'll use this program for other municipal buildings.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I haven't heard of them doing that.
Worst case, there might be some administrative office, special ed, limited administrative function, but let's say it would largely be instructional.
Yeah, I mean, in schools, you have administrative functions as well.
Right.
They do those.
So I'm just saying, there's another one for you
Yep.
in that regard.
Okay. Next.
Okay, next. Sad to say, but there is no completed CTE depreciation schedule.
My goal in having it on this agenda was to make sure that Mr. Kaufman could carry the torch to whoever, either him or somebody else ends up on the finance committee.
Yes, and it's
There better
something,
be at least another
That's
person.
why I'm assuming there'll be two of us.
it is something that I have requested a number of times. It hasn't shown up yet. It's important. I think it's also important that if they're gonna continue to, they redid the cosmetology and it looks wonderful and that's great, but you gotta keep track of all this stuff and how long do these kind of things last. And so, it was promised to me over the summer, but it didn't happen.
So my suggestion moving forward is that this committee not approve the money that they wanna spend until they've updated their depreciation schedule. Cause this is simple to do if they just did it, now with the problem is we've done like 4 projects and they've gotta go update everything, right?
Right.
Whereas if they just did it piecemeal each time they were upgraded, when they did the,
Cosmetology.
cosmetology, thank you. You know, they could've just updated it, right? And you got that one little section of the depreciation schedule, you update it, you're done.
Yeah.
So cause we need to do that, cause otherwise it all gets lost.
Yeah, it needs to be part of the practice, you know, if you're gonna, if you get something granted and approved, then you put it in right away, you know, because that's when you have all the data in front of you. So I personally will continue to push, you know, we've got now Amanda here and but, I mean, I don't know if I follow through on that threat, but I can let them know that, I don't know if it's a threat or a promise, but I could just say, going forward, you guys should get this done before you come forward with.
Well, I would suggest they bring the completed depreciation schedule along with their next request for funding.
Yeah.
That would probably be the best time, or sooner. I did want to ask a question about that, because I saw, I don't even remember where it is right now, but there was some there was some amount of money for the cosmetology program. Was that part of the original overhaul that we've had $100,000+ we gave them to renovate and rebuild that whole space? So, but I saw somewhere there was another
Under
request.
contracts, but that.
Was that where it was? You
Yeah,
recall
so
what I'm saying?
that is
Thank you.
probably when we did it, right? Cause it's
So
this past year we did cosmetology.
Say 2 summers ago.
Yeah, not this summer,
I didn't see it, Howard. I was just
16.
saying,
Yes.
No, it's in this spreadsheet, okay. The contracts invoices over 10,000.
Oh, yeah.
So I noticed, so on page, are we gonna,
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
that's next, okay, thank you.
Okay, so the only reason I put it on there, and I will come down and give public comment if I have to.
We'll get them back.
That would be precious. So is that something we should make a formal request to the administration to provide?
I can do
I think
that.
we just did.
Yeah, let's just make sure it gets on, I know we're gonna try and keep a list now, so
Yes.
let's get
I'll
that
just
one on
tell
the
them they
list.
need to get going on it, if they're gonna come forward with any other requests.
What budget request?
Right, we'll see.
What budget request?
No depreciation, what budget?
No
All right,
budget.
so I'll make the motion before we do. Move to accept and place on file the contracts and invoices over $10,000 for FY17.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cobb. Go ahead, Mr. Donovan.
Okay, so this is what I call the Ryder Report. This is something that Mr. Ryder, back in the day, who used to be the head of this committee for a couple of years, he requested this. And basically what we do is I get a download of all the individual invoices that are greater than $10,000. So if you bought something for $3,000 invoices, it's not gonna show up here. But if the individual invoice is over 10,000, then it comes into a spreadsheet that I get. I then take it and I break it out. This is for last school year. I break it out by category, so you see utilities, transportation, rentals, etc. And there's each one of those, and then I'll show the amount, I show a description of what it's for, and then I say, was it bid, and was the contract approved by the BOE? You know, so things like utilities, Eversource, it's not something that's approved by the BOE, that's how we get our electricity. Transportation, it talks about the first student, there is a significant contract there that's been approved. The other two, Caring Hands and Provider, you know, those are for the out-of-district kids. And we do go out and get the lowest price we can from both providers and then move on. So you can kind of go through and see, you know, sped tuition, there's a significant amount of invoices there that are over 10,000 because of the significant cost there. That's nothing that those items are not approved by the board because of the individual student needs. So that's pretty much what it is. It's a summary. Like I said, I put it together every year. It does go through, you know, down towards the bottom, you see some of the deferred maintenance projects. And the last thing, you'll see some of the building projects. So,
A couple of questions.
certainly.
So, I remember once we had a conversation where I thought we were going to capture multiple, for example, exactly what you just said, if there's four $3,000 checks, it wouldn't show up.
Well, invoices. But
Single
that's-
invoices, but that's-
But that's pretty rare. We bring to the board anything 10,000 and over, individual items 10,000 and over, or significant purchases. Those things all fall in here. No
Right,
one
but if-
really bills us. We don't approve something for $12,000 at this level and then get 4 invoices for 3,000. That really doesn't happen. It could, but it doesn't really happen.
Okay, because I remembered an instance for a contract for an individual where we, over the course of the year,
Sure.
it added up to $36,000, but it would never show up in
Right.
this.
Right.
So, and that was something that was never bid, and I think things like that should be bid, even if it is Title I money, which I think in that
I seem to
instance.
recall that being somebody who was providing services, and I think
Yes.
they did it for different schools, and so over time.
It was a contract, and it was paid for by the Perkins Grant, I believe, was the one that you're talking about.
But the problem that I had with that was the total amount in the Perkins Grant was to the exact dollar that we were billed. It was around 34,000, or somewhere around there. And it would never show up in a report like this because it came in at $3,000.
Right. Though, what I would tell you now is that we would bring that contract to you. It
Okay,
wouldn't show up on this report if they invoiced us $2,000 a month.
okay. But the
But the
contract itself
contract
would come
would
forward.
come,
Okay.
Yes.
So do you have any idea, so I'm on page, I guess it's, okay, flipping it over to the second side. I'm curious, the Ceresc for $328,000 was never bid out, never approved by the board. Grant-funded consulting, do you know the detail on that?
That is, it's a grant, it was a 3-year grant. For 2 schools, I believe, Ledge Street and Amherst Street, and Ceres bid it, bid the contract. We joined in, we became their partner. They provided, I think, 2, I'm gonna call them specialists, to help the students at those 2 schools. I think this is the last year.
So this
of
was
that
remedial
grant.
in nature?
Yes, I believe so. Remedial, or it might also have something to do with counseling,
Okay.
things like that.
Was that so that's a grant?
That's a grant, exactly.
But was that grant accepted by the board?
It was
Probably.
like 4 years ago.
Yeah, I seem to remember.
I can't remember exactly, but,
Typically,
I
that
mean,
thing
it's-
would come to the committee and the board?
It's a grant paid for out of operating funds?
no, it's,
Out of-
we pay, we have the grant with Ceres, and Ceres sends people in, and we pay Ceres for the people they send in. So the employees working at these schools are Ceres employees. So that's where most of
Oh,
the,
the grant, okay.
yeah, so it's a grant that's paying that.
I'll leave that for Mr. Kaufman to figure out in the coming year.
I'll have no hair by the time I figure that one out.
I think we're a little late for that, Howard, aren't we?
Exactly, that's my point, exactly. That ship has sailed.
All right.
So, I do have another question about the X2 development on the next page, because it's listed as an annual software license, but a software license is very different from development. So,
Well,
136,000.
that's just the name of the company,
Oh, okay, I see, okay,
so it's really X2, which is our Aspen
Right,
X2
yes.
student software.
okay. Or do we just have a software license with them, or are they still doing consulting and modification? Would that be rolled up in this number?
That probably, I'd have to go look at the detail, to see if it's one line item or not.
I feel like it's kind of wrapped up in there. They're not gonna do real development, but it'd be like helping you understand how to write a report or something.
Well, I remember they were making adjustments to
The report card.
X2 for the competency grading, and they were rolling it out to other cities, and that we were kind of in their testing loop, and
I'm
this
pretty
other
sure
stuff.
most of that 136 is the cost, the next
The
two,
license.
the license for the
Okay.
year. I'll double check to see if there's anything else in there, but
Okay.
I think that's pretty much
I
it.
think I have one more question that goes to CTE in the next equipment section, where the salon, spa, interiors. So that was my question. So is this $64,000 in addition
No,
to the
that's part-
renovation?
That's part of the renovation. That's the,
Okay.
salon spa is the vendor we use
Oh,
to buy
okay.
most of the
Gotcha.
equipment for the
Okay,
cosmetology.
thank you. That's it. That's all I had. Thank you.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. FY 18 November financial report.
I'll run through it quick, there's not a whole lot. Basically, the wages full-time slightly higher, a couple $100,000 higher, and that's because November had 5 Thursdays, so there were 5 weekly payrolls. Typically, you get 2 bi-weeklies and 4 weeklies. November had 5 weeklies, so that's why that's about $250,000 higher. The overtime numbers, this time of year are slightly higher with some events, and we do have, I guess, a few of our custodians out, so we have to pay a little more overtime than we would like. And the
Get
stipends.
used to that.
You also have 10 fewer of them, so.
And the stipends of
Okay.
19,000 are the fall coaches for the middle school, so you'll see the high school coaches.
Could you help me out with a
come through
line
next month.
item, so I know where you are, please?
Okay, 51700.
Okay,
The
thank you.
stipends, it's 19,574, and that, like I said, that's the middle school coaches for the fall. You'll see larger numbers there in December when we pay the north and south high school coaches, because there's a lot more of them. Other than that, as I said, the line below that, retirement separations pay, all you're gonna see there now are these smaller amounts where people leave during the year and we pay them their vacation, or sometimes they have a small severance. This was, I believe, a para. So the total number's not gonna change much, unless we have a senior person leave, but I don't expect that to happen at this point. Okay, the rest is fine. Other than that, I take a look each month at the property services there, the electricity, the gas and the water. Basically, year-to-date compared to last year, we're running lower in all 3 of the utility areas. And I even went and looked at, we're lower than we were in fiscal 16 also. So, which basically might just tell you that we had kind of a warm fall. We'll see how we go through the next few months, because that's when most of the heating costs come.
The rates went down as well for gas back on.
Just starting, just now though. Those invoices haven't even hit yet. They'll hit
But
in
one of
December.
them changed, I can't remember if it was electricity or gas, back in end of May.
Yeah,
so
the
1 June is-
electricity, yeah.
I'm just curious if there'll be, just generally with the kids and the phones. I substitute up in Merrimack, and the kids are always plugging into the wall, their phones, and, I'm thinking high school, not even thinking
Yes.
the middle school, 3,800 kids at some point during the day plugging in. I wonder if we're gonna be an electric utility for them, or,
Yeah, well,
so I'm just saying, if all of a sudden we stop seeing it, it might be because people are piggybacking on our electricity during the day. It's a possible outcome.
okay, excuse me, nothing else in the property services. Other services, things are running, I look at this compared to previous year, month by month, there's nothing out of the ordinary there. You do see down at the bottom, the tuition out of district.
Is it stable?
640,000. We had a review of it today. It's gonna be closer to 5.5 million than what
Again?
we have budget, yeah, which is where we were last year, so,
So we're 900 off?
it could be.
Here we go. Well, this is the reality.
Yeah, this is the reality, and, we do, like I said, we do have some special revenue fund money, and
I do have one question in honor of Mr. Farrington.
The phones?
Exactly, that's exactly, you know, your memory will last on.
That's good. Well, so won't the program, I guess.
So my question is, are we achieving any savings?
Not right now,
Okay.
because I don't think anything's been changed. I do have, putting together the budget for next year, which I'm working on now, I do have a note there to talk to Rick any day now to say, okay, Rick, how much of a decrease can I see? How many of these copper lines are gonna go away?
Well, I would say grab the copper and bring it down to the recycling bin. That might be the way you're gonna recover your cost. Sorry.
If it was our.
I got your message.
And they're all up and running, the entire district?
Yes, the entire district is up and running.
Tested?
Yep. Now, the whole city isn't up and running. The city hall still hasn't done it.
It's only been 3.5 years.
Yeah, well, why hurry? So, yeah, so that's, we're all up and
I like
running.
your
It's-
buzz here.
It's working for us, and we do expect to see some sort of decrease. I have yet to get from Mr. Fahrenkoff a number, but hopefully for this budget, we'll have some sort of a number, and then we should see some drop in the, probably
Over time.
the final.
So, but is
number this
there,
year.
was there ever any expectations set?
Not dollar values, I was never given anything specific. The question was asked a number of times, the answer was, I don't know. It should save something.
Should. Gotcha.
It has to save something.
But I don't understand. We're paying somebody some fee to make,
Sorry.
it's not, the copper wire doesn't cost us anything, it's that we're paying
Yeah, you're paying for the line.
one of your
That's
contracts,
what Rick
we're
calls it, the
paying
copper.
Verizon or somebody.
Right, so you're gonna have
for
fewer
phone
lines,
service.
so you should save less money. You should save
How
more
could
money,
you-
sorry.
But we haven't,
It's IP based, isn't it?
The new phone
the new
system
one,
is
I'm
IP
saying,
based.
the
the-
savings is that we shouldn't need as many of those phones, right?
Oh, so
I've
these
never
voice
understood why
lines
we
are the
can't
copper.
quantify this number. We know how many lines we're paying for, I hope.
Yeah, though it comes in these big, giant, massive bills, so it's not simple to do. But I would think that as we put in the new system in each school, part of the process was to say, okay, we've got, let's say, 12 lines coming in here, we're only gonna need 2 as backups. In case the
Yep.
IP goes down, then you
And
gotta.
who's in charge of that, Mr. Franco?
Yes, yes.
And so far, we haven't removed any lines?
I don't know.
Have we seen any reduction in cost?
No, but you won't see the, keep in mind, these bills here are probably from October, we weren't even, so we did the rollout. If you're gonna see something, you'll start to see it in maybe January, February at the earliest.
But in fairness, it wasn't driven totally by a cost savings. It was driven by in large part by the fact we had schools that had fit for
Yes,
system.
yes.
It was just flat failing both at the high school and elementary school.
Right. Yeah, no, it certainly wasn't driven by cost savings, but you should save some money doing this,
You'd think at least half the lines would disappear.
you would think.
2/3, maybe.
But of the, so 11,000 a month, how much of that is actual lines? You know, is it $50 a line a month, or, I don't know the breakdown of what the 11,000, it's a number of different bills I've never seen.
So their bill isn't any clearer than the one they send me.
No, it's more complicated, yes, much more complicated.
So that would probably, since we enter the budget season, that would probably be a good data point to have, hopefully by then. Maybe
Yeah.
Mr. Fahrenkoff has a spreadsheet, he just hasn't shared it yet, because it hasn't switched over, but he might have a model for an expectation, I would think.
Because I recall when we looked at this one time, I remember seeing charges for like long-distance phone calls.
Yes.
Like, I don't know what kind of contract we have, but pretty sure no one's paid for a long-distance phone call in like at least a decade, I'm
No,
guessing.
my
two.
mother-in-law has,
So,
Oh,
She's
one of those
85.
base contracts,
Yeah.
yeah.
she does.
Yeah, but this is a school system.
They do have that so long?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for limited people on
People on-
retirement and
Yeah.
things like that. Seniors can get a very low-cost, minimal contact line for emergencies. So if you make a long-distance call, you
You
pay
get
for it.
charged. They don't have a cell phone, they don't,
Yeah.
you know. They're still
well,
out there.
I would encourage the
Future committee.
future Finance and Operations Committee to,
Yes.
if not getting information during the budget, to request that Mr. Fahrenkoff come to the meeting with data. explain how it's all gonna work.
Well, we can,
Is that
yeah.
one of those,
And I-
no phone
I know we
data,
didn't do it to-
no,
I know we didn't
equipment
do it to save money,
approval?
but I have, for 8 years, I've looked at that line item and gone, I do not understand why we're paying so much for phones, when really phones are pretty cheap nowadays.
That was a
It's
data,
phone slash
data
internet.
request?
It's phone slash
Data
internet,
request, a voice data request.
because you pay at home for your internet, this is
You
the
guys are
internet.
fun.
Move to accept and place on file the FY18 financial report.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kaufman. Further discussion?
I just wanted,
Anything more, Ms.
I just
Donovan?
had one question.
Yep,
if I may.
Mr. Kaufman.
So, the way the out of tuition is tracking, we have just about 4,700,000 allocated in the budget, and you think it may very well trend to 5.5 again?
Based on today's meeting, that's where it looks like it's going.
Okay. So
So
folks at
unless-
home, this is where our budget money goes right here.
Last year, any extra budget
Yeah,
money went
it
there.
all
It
gets
all went
pushed there, yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
I know a way to save $1 million.
You do?
Nobody left on the board that's willing to do it, but
What's that, get rid of football, get rid of sports, not gonna wear Poppy's thing?
you'll think of it later. All right,
Transfer
no
report.
Further discussion, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Transfer.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay, three
Two
transfers.
different conversations.
First one is a
That wasn't
transfer made by the CTE department. Basically, this is another thing they're gonna be doing at the automotive. If you wanna get some new tires, you can go to the CTE automotive program, and you'll have to pay for them, but they will put them on for you cheaper than, I'm not gonna mention any specific competitors, but, so they're trying to get the kids involved where they're working on people's cars, come
Maintenance.
in. Yep, and so what they wanted to do was they wanted to get started on this. I said, well, use some of your operating budget to buy your first set of tires. And then as people buy them, we can sort of replace. We're gonna set up a special fund just if this grows, where there's a lot of money coming in and money going out, you'll use the revenue that you get when you sell the tires. We're gonna set up a special account for it. But right now, this was just to set up a transfer, so if they wanna buy a few sets of tires and get started, they can.
Now, in other programs, there was concern that internal programs like this might negatively impact businesses in the community. We're not concerned about that anymore?
Well, personally, I'm not.
Okay.
MST did some metal work on on a trailer for me a bunch of years ago, and they weren't competing with anybody, but it gave the students a practical experience at
Right.
riveting,
Yep, I'm all for
I
it.
do have one question,
and I worked in the building.
Yep.
You
I
got
got two
we have
more.
one- Okay, okay, I'm on the last page, there's one more question.
All right, the second one is Elm Street, and they're moving away, they're taking some money from their computer software line, they're putting it in to additional hours so that they can provide after-school tutoring. Now, I believe the software was supposed to do some of the tutoring, I think they decided, I don't know all the details on this, because it's more of an educational thing.
They used
But
to
I-
use IXL down there.
Yeah, and I think they're not using as much the software, or they get the software cheap or whatever, and they're using some of it for direct tutoring hours. So that's what that is, and that's their money, you know, like I said, that's their allocation, so. And then the last one is, as you can see, a significant 16,000. Not last year, but the year before, during the budget season, we added a alcohol and drug counselor, and we put 50,000 in the budget, but by the time the budget was approved, it was June. First of all, they couldn't find anyone, so we contracted out to,
Somebody.
yeah, one of the local companies downtown. I can't think of it off the top of my head. So that person came in, and then this year they agreed to do it again. So to pay for it this year, it's part of the high school budgets. They were supposed to take up the 200,000 they got, they were supposed to put $25,000 each in this year's budget. I'm probably gonna suggest, as we move forward in the budget, to take that away from the high schools and sort of put it in as a separate line item in the budget, so that they don't need to spend $25,000 each on there, and then as we go through the budget process, we'll see what happens.
So they'd be reduced by 25?
Well, they're
And it
gonna,
would be
they
allocated
get
for
about
this pur-
200,000 each to spend on things, and so they're really getting about 175, because 25
Okay,
of each
so
school is
it'll go
going to
here.
pay for this counselor. And then, obviously, we could talk to the high school people to see, does it make sense, do they wanna keep this for youth council, that's the name of the place.
So
Do
it
they
seems
wanna
like
keep it?
contracting out is a better solution already.
It may be, assuming that the person is doing a good job, so it's really, it's a question for the high school guidance counselors probably, and
Depends on
principals.
how many hours you're getting and how many hours you might need.
Does guidance have a budget that this money would come out of? Is that
That's
where you
we-
might put it?
That's where I might put it, exactly, yeah. But like I said, the south, the north, this is north. The south budgeted it, the north didn't have enough, so this is to just straighten it out for this year, and everyone's, principal and everyone are in tune with it, so. You have to,
Can I go back to the automotive thing?
Yep.
Which one has the automotive program? Is that
I
North?
think it's north, that's the automotive, right?
And are they purchasing the tires at a single location? Do we have a deal with someone that we're getting tires from, or?
We should have probably asked Amanda that, I'm not sure where we're buying the tires from.
Yeah.
Maybe we're getting them at the dump.
I would certainly hope.
So the kids are just practicing putting on tires and taking them off?
He's just joking, folks.
I'm gonna guess the CTE directors are not gonna be happy with that kind of.
Well, that's where they get the lawnmowers from.
So, I guess my thought would be, I think CTE probably should go to the curriculum committee and explain this change. I don't think we have any other programs that do. Do we do it with cosmetology? Do people come in
Cosmetology
and
does
do
it,
stuff?
I think these guys used to do it with oil changes, but they're trying to
Yeah.
build it back up again.
Didn't the small engine people used to take things in?
Well, small engine is not really a CTE program, it's
Oh,
more
it's
adult
tech
ed
ed.
course.
That's right.
Yeah, adult ed teaches that.
Yeah, maybe it's fine. I mean, it's up to you guys. I won't-
Yeah, we do, back about 5 years ago, we set up a fund, we went through the whole process, got it approved here, it's set up to the city. So there's a fund that exists, now we just have to add the sub-accounts to say, okay, which one, for example, one would be cosmetology, one would be automotive, one would be, and then that's how we'll track the,
Would we have to go out to vendors for the tires that would be purchased on behalf of the
Yeah.
school's customer?
yeah.
So there'd be a bid
And
process?
I'm not, yeah, no, well, I don't know, I mean, I guess how much, if
At
you're
what
gonna go
point-
in, do you want Pirelli tires, do you want Michelin, do you want, I mean, I'm not sure how they're gonna do that. This was just so they could get started,
Figure out
I'm not,
logistics. Okay.
yeah.
All right, move to approve the November 2017 transfers.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kaufman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Back to only the ESCO.
Yes.
Can I ask just a question just on the tire and doing things like this? Is there a liability associated with that if somebody drives down the highway and the tire
When
falls
the tire
off?
falls off, well, we do have insurance to cover that,
So we're all set?
yeah.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that the instructor is
I agree,
not
but I
letting
just,
little Howard do it for the first time.
no, I
Then,
understand.
yeah, I think he does a great job.
Yeah, that's good. Don't wanna hurt his feelings, tell him you only put on 3 lug nuts.
And but the kids are probably too young to drive the car to test drive it.
It's probably over-engineered anyway.
Air tools?
Mr. Smith?
Could I ask that we have the Eversource contract approved on the 19th as well? I got the sense talking to them that, because we had several schools in the queue, this is the money they had set aside for this year.
Calendar.
This calendar year, and then the other schools will be next year.
This is for Dr. Chris.
Correct.
So what do we want on the 19th? That?
The
And
Eversource.
and the capital,
The deferred revenue.
deferred,
cap, yeah.
yeah.
Bring it all in.
Okay. I'll have to
we'll close these things out quick.
All right.
Yeah, talk to Rosie tomorrow.
Move to go into unless
So
there
you'd have to do it in the morning.
Yes, I will.
are
She's by
there,
herself this week, but get it going.
She probably has half of it pre-printed already.
Yeah, well, I don't think she's printed it yet. She was busy with something today.
you know, we used to have the RSAs in here for going into non-public.
Here.
Move to go into non-public under RSA 91A32C, matters which if discussed in public likely would adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of the BOE unless such person requests an open meeting.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kaufman. Mr. Kaufman?
Roll call, yes.
Mr. Howell, yes. We are in non-public at 7:48. Yes, move to seal the minutes under RSA 91A33. Seconded by Mr. Kaufman. Mr. Kaufman? Seal the minutes?
Yes, aye.
Mr. Howell, seal the minutes. Minutes are sealed. Did you have something else, Mr. Frank?
Yes. Just wanted to observe, as you say, this is your last meeting. And it's been my observation of all the time you've done this and the budget, that the district, the board has been well-served, the district has been well-served. Your understanding of all of this and your history has been a great benefit, certainly for me in learning a lot of these things, so thanks.
Appreciate that, thanks.
And I would, last year, my first year on the budget committee, you went out of your way to assist me in answering those questions, so Mr. Donovan didn't have to deal with them. And I appreciate it. I think I even told you then that I appreciate them, so your knowledge. The level of institutional knowledge that we're losing is irreplaceable.
I think that just means I'm old, been here a long time, but thank you.
Compared to some of it, well, at least me in this room, I'll say maybe not.
Careful,
I took the hit myself, George. I didn't
Okay.
pass it on.
just be careful, you're turning on.
I'm now gonna be the old man at the board. What are you kidding? Oh, actually, no.
Hey, you still have
Mosier's
Bill.
still
Bill's
there.
there.
Mosher around, you got a ways to go.
Yeah, all right. You just gotta get him healthy and back at
I
the board
know,
meeting so that
I
it's
know.
obvious that he's the old one.
He's there,
That's all.
yeah.
And I just hope whoever takes over this role understands the 2-hour rule, because I
Right.
think that's one of the best things
Absolutely.
we do.
Well, I mean,
Exactly.
when someone runs a well-run meeting can function plenty of times, so.
Yeah, I do think in fairness, finance and operations tends to have very distinct
Consistent,
issues
yeah.
that you don't have a lot of people on one side and another, so it makes it a little easier to run a meeting, but there are times when I've tried to speed things up to make sure we get out at 8:30.
Well, I like to think it's the guy who builds the agenda, just does it very efficiently.
Yes, well, so,
Mr. Donovan said very modestly.
I've been doing finance and operations, probably for 6 years now.
6?
I was on it and then chairing it, and I've done the budget, a number of times. We had a rough go when I first got on the board, as I'm sure many people in Nashua remember, where we had some issues with our accounting department before Mr. Donovan arrived. And Mr. Donovan has been fantastic. The district would like him to stay forever, I'm pretty sure. I'm sure that won't happen.
No, it won't.
But it's always easier. Mr. Donovan always knows, the next thing that needs to be done. So there isn't a lot of work on my end. Like you said, I think maybe I might throw an extra item or two at you, the CTE Depreciation Schedule, for instance, at the last minute. And sometimes I even get those things, so that's good. But Mr. Donovan's been a great asset to the district. It's been a pleasure working with you in these committees. It's going to be hard not to get up off the couch and come down here and explain to everybody what they're doing wrong. And that's just going to be a matter of people getting into their own rhythm and
Trial by
understanding.
fire.
It's really the only way to do it. So good luck, and I'll be watching occasionally, but Hopefully not too.
Hopefully not every Tuesday.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Kaufman, seconded by Mr.
Aye.
Hollowell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. We are adjourned at 8:05.